Good evening and welcome. I'm Sheila Balgobin and I am the Dream Decipherer, and I help you to crack the code of your sleep and dreams so you can sleep sound and dream deep. This evening is the third installment of my series Trauma, the Body, and Sleep. And tonight's episode looks at trauma in the body and how to be able to unlock that trauma that gets stuck in the body to restore balance and improve sleep. So first of all, let's look at how you can learn how to unlock tissue memory. But let's backtrack a little bit and look at trauma in general. And trauma can be considered anything that keeps us locked in a physical, emotional, behavioral, or mental habit. And recovery from trauma is the process of the body finding balance and freeing itself from the effects of the trauma. All too often, however, the recovery process gets halted for some reason, which prevents the traumatic occurrence from being resolved. And there are many reasons why that can happen, and the trauma is not released. And because our bodies and emotions can only handle safely a limited amount of stress, trauma results whenever an experience exceeds our ability to cope with its consequences. So the energy of the trauma has to go somewhere, and since it hasn't been released, it gets stored in our body's tissues, which primarily in our muscles and the fascia. The fascia, which is like cling film or saran wrap around the muscles and keeps them in their integrity, but and will stay there in those places until it is actually released. And this stored trauma typically leads to pain and progressively erodes health. It's important to remember here that what one cell in the body knows, every cell knows, because they're all connected with the interstitial fluid that lubricates the cells and helps them to move around the body. So that what one of them has experienced, whether it be a physical trauma or an emotional trauma, every cell in the body knows it. So, being that emotions are the vehicles that the body relies on to find balance after a trauma, these traumas, these feelings locked in the body, represent an accumulation of incomplete events and the body's attempt to work through them. So, by strengthening our inner resources, we're better able of processing these feelings, which will release the trauma and increase our ability to cope with stress going forward. But what can we do, if anything, to be able to defend ourselves against trauma in the first place? Well, there's a natural process that occurs when a trauma takes place. Our bodies automatically activate a protective mechanism. So when a stressor is too much for a person to handle, the nervous system and begins to overload the nervous system, the trauma gets blocked, it gets stopped from processing and gets stuck. And this overload of the nervous system stops the natural fight, flight, or freeze reaction. That's the natural response. So this causes the traumatic energy to be stored in the surrounding muscles, organs, and connective tissue. I mean, you think about it, if you've had a dispute with someone, perhaps somebody cut you off and on your way to work and you're running late and you can't really go anywhere. You can't yell at the other person. You can't, do more than maybe show them the finger, but you're still fuming when you get to work. And all of that cortisol and whatnot is building up and creating stress. And that stress, because it hasn't been properly released, you're still grumbling about that at lunchtime. it gets eventually gets stored in the body unless it's released in some way. I mean, that's a minor, relatively minor thing, but stresses, major or minor, can have a, a significant impact on people. What may be a minor stressor for one person becomes a major stressor for another. So to be able to um, release the trauma that's stored in the tissue, or rather to be able to handle this overload of nervous tension that hasn't been released, the brain will actually become disconnected from the part of the body that is has received the trauma or has experienced the trauma. And any part of the body that's disconnected from the brain can't heal or stay healthy. So the effect of stored trauma, therefore, is eventual degeneration and disease. It's important to stop here for a moment and remember that memory is not only stored in the brain. They call it non-local memory. So again, my statement about what one cell knows, every cell knows. There's ample scientific evidence to show that the memory is stored all over the body. It's not stored in one place. And the three simple examples of how the body has these extraordinary memory capabilities are very simple. One is the immune response of this T cells once it's been exposed to something like a virus. The T cells learn that when this virus comes, they need to attack it and get rid of it. So it has memory. So the muscle memory, if anyone who's ever played a musical instrument or done martial arts like I did, it wasn't until you started to develop muscle memory that your movements become automatic. At first, it's very clunky, very, very disjointed, and very uncoordinated. With time and practice, the muscles remember what needs to be done, and you don't have to think about it anymore. And I can attest to that. As a martial artist, there were times where I would kind of stand outside of myself, watching myself train, thinking, my God, I'm moving really fast. So, because I didn't have to think about it, the body knew what to do and just did it. And a third way from genetic research has shown that our DNA possesses the ability to store complex information as well. So that's three: our genes, our immune system, and what did I say? Our muscles. Oh gosh, it's been a long day. Have the capacity to store memory. So if we're looking at the body as a means to be able to heal trauma, how does that work exactly? Well, that notion has been around for a very, very long time. Working with the body to heal the mind and spirit. Hippocrates and other ancient Greek physicians all believed in the healing effect of the laying on of hands and the importance of touch. In Rome, Asclepiades promoted natural therapeutic methods such as a healthy diet, massage, and physical exercise. And healing has been a common denominator as a holistic approach throughout history, and it includes traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, and traditional Arabic and Islamic medicine as well. And much of the developing world today still relies on traditional medical practices. And in the West now, complementary therapies or alternative therapies, and as the medical profession will call them, are being applied in conjunction or instead of, in some cases, typical medical interventions, because it's showing or indicating, and people are experiencing benefits from having that touch, from having that hands-on work done. And I know that I combined energy work with body work with absolutely wonderful results for my clients for more than 25 years, and even have experienced release of trauma that I wasn't even aware of during a treatment that I was being given. I'd have inexplicable pain in my shoulder, and I had an Alexander technique treatment, which works with the body, and a memory came up. And once I had cognitively understood what the trauma was about, the pain disappeared and never came back. So it just goes to show that once you access the memory that has created the pain, the relationship between the brain and the body is restored, and that trauma can be released. One of the theories behind why these bodywork interventions work is because of a bi-directional relationship between the brain and the body, which suggests that through the body one can alter or influence the brain and the emotions with positive health results. And these bi-directional communications from the brain to the body and vice versa are thought to take place via three routes: the autonomic nervous system, the endocrine system, and the immune system. So all of which suggests that these alterations can be made to the brain and emotions, but through the body, which provides some support in using body centered interventions or treatments to be able to effectively release trauma. And further research indicates that certain body oriented interventions are found to be even more effective because of their type. Self administered therapies such as EFT or tapping, yoga, and dance therapy seem to hold added advantages in that they're easy to administer because you're doing it for yourself, and you have to focus your cognitive training and attention on what you're doing. I mean, if you're in a dance class and you're not paying attention, you're going to step on people and get them very annoyed. So when it comes to unlocking memories, there are three things that are necessary for the body to have. First, to develop the inner resources required to handle the experience, which weren't actually in place or functioning at the time the experience occurred. So it will help to reset the clock, so to speak. Now, you also need space for that traumatic energy to go to when released. When we're full of tension and stress, it doesn't allow space for the stored trauma to shift or move anywhere. I mean, you would like it to be fully released, but if it's a deep, long-standing trauma, it may take a while, it may take stages, but you still have to make space for it to be able to move around into another space and eventually out. And finally, reconnecting the brain to the area of the body where the trauma has been stored. So, in essence, combining body work with verbal therapy can successfully bring a trauma to its completion and release. And many types of verbal therapy can be helpful. It depends on what works for a particular person. There's different interventions of all kinds, and you just have to do a bit of research to find out what works best for you. While certain bodywork styles will help to reduce stress and tension, which allows for room for to release the trauma, like with my shoulder, and to reconnect the brain with the stored trauma. because as long as you're unaware of what the trauma is and it's locked in there, um, you it'll never be resolved. You have to literally shine a light on it, in that dark space, to be able to bring it out and release it. So there you have it. Where this is the third episode of this series, but next week, kind of as a continuation and a bonus, perhaps, I'll be having a special guest on with me, who's a sleep therapy specialist, by the name of Philip Cohen. And we will be looking at the mind body connection, and in terms of therapies, which can help with releasing trauma and incidentally improving sleep. So I hope you'll join us for that next week, same time, as we talk about mind body therapies. So, but in the meantime, if you're struggling with poor sleep or anxiety or PTSD, and need some assistance or advice, please get in contact with me. You can leave a message, you can leave a comment, and I will get contact with you. Or you can book a free consultation as per the ticker on the bottom of the screen. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Have a wonderful evening and start to the week. And hopefully, I'll see you next week when I have a special guest with me. Take care and bye bye.